The school beauty came between me and Caleb GU, and she even asked me to inform Caleb GU to meet her in the alley at night. I refused her and told her that Caleb GU wouldn't go. As a result, the school beauty went missing and was trafficked by human traffickers. Everyone blamed me. Only Caleb GU was tolerant of me. 5 years later, I had a difficult childbirth, and Caleb GU gave up on resuscitation. He leaned close to my ear and said, "Serves you right," after returning to that year. I immediately informed Caleb GU about the school bell's invitation. The second semester of senior year of high school was a critical time for studying. Nora Bai came to the classroom of Class 2, Grade 12, looking for me. Violet's song, "Please help me deliver this letter to Caleb GU, and also ask him to meet me in the alley behind the school after evening self-study." I sat in my seat, dazed and staring blankly at the pink letter in front of me. This scene had played out countless times in my mind. Could it be that I've been reborn? Just a moment ago, I was lying on the operating table, and the doctor announced that I was having a difficult delivery. Looking troubled as he turned to my husband, Caleb GU, I was drenched in sweat from the pain, my strength fading bit by bit. I struggled to open my eyes to look at GU Yang, but what I saw was his unusually cold expression at that moment. He said, "Just save the child." I widened my eyes in shock, unable to believe it. But I couldn't speak at that moment. Caleb GU leaned close to my ear and whispered softly, like a lover's murmur, "Violet, you were the one who caused Nora to be abducted, and she remains missing to this day. How have you been able to live so peacefully all these years? Remember, all of this is the consequence of your own actions. You deserve it." His eyes concealed a terrifying hatred. I had no idea that my husband, who is usually gentle and tolerant toward me, had been holding on to his feelings for Nora Bai all along, and even chose this moment to avenge her. He also resents me, blaming me for not giving him that love letter in time and for not telling him about Nora Bai's invitation. If I could live my life over again, Violet's song, "Are you deaf?" Nora Bai looked down at me arrogantly, waving the scented letter in her hand. "What, you don't want to give the letter to Caleb GU? Are you so afraid I'll steal Caleb GU away from you?" I snapped back to reality and stared steadily at Nora Bai in front of me. I had returned to that day in our senior year of high school when Nora Bai went missing after being abducted. Last time, I refused to hand this letter to Caleb GU because I resented Nora Bai's attempts to come between us. At the same time, he also refused to help her pass on the message and was unwilling to let Caleb GU go to the appointment. But that night, Nora Bai still went to the alley behind the school. There were no surveillance cameras or streetlights there. Someone, from who knows where, found Nora Bai alone in the alley and forcibly took her away. It wasn't until 3 days later when the police found me that I learned Nora Bai had gone missing. Because of this, I became the primary target of blame for Nora Bai's parents. And even the entire school. They all believed that I was the one who had harmed her. Only Caleb GU firmly stood by my side, telling me that he believed it wasn't my fault. I was deeply moved and married him after graduating from university, but what I never expected was that Caleb GU had actually been holding a grudge against me all along. I closed my eyes briefly, and when I opened them again, I smiled and took the pink envelope. "All right, I'll give it to him." Nora Bai was stunned. "You've changed. You'll really help me give it to him?" I nodded, speaking very seriously and solemnly. "Don't worry, I will definitely deliver the letter. And I'll also tell him that you'll be waiting for him in the alley tonight." She sneered and looked me up and down. "It seems you're aware that your looks don't match up to Caleb GU. Why not just step aside sooner instead of clinging to him? You and Caleb GU are a match made in heaven. I wish you eternal happiness and a harmonious union." After my stream of flattery, Nora Bai was finally satisfied. "All right, remember to have Caleb GU come see me tonight." After seeing Nora Bai off, I sat back down in my seat, looking around the familiar yet unfamiliar classroom. Only then did my heart seem to settle, starting to thump loudly. Have I really been reborn? Reborn on this day that changed my entire life and destiny. "Violet, Violet," a familiar voice suddenly reached my ears. I turned around and saw a cute girl with short, ear-length hair tilting her head as she looked at me. I remembered her. She was my deskmate and had once been my best friend. Gang Lele, however. After Norabai's incident, she also became one of the people who denounced me, when my desk was stained with ink, when I was locked in the bathroom all night, and when I was arbitrarily insulted and bullied by my classmates. She asked the teacher not to sit with me because she didn't want to be around a jinx. Like me, everyone blamed me, saying that if I hadn't kept Caleb Gu in the dark, Norabai wouldn't have waited in vain for him in the alley for so long. And the incident wouldn't have happened, but Gang Lele was right beside me at the time, heard my conversation with Norabai, and knew that I had told her Caleb Gu wouldn't show up and advised her not to wait. "What's wrong with you, Violet? Are you so angry you've lost your mind?" Gang Lele reached out to touch my head, and I suddenly covered it. She froze for a moment. "Violet, I was often bullied by these classmates back then, and it had already become a conditioned reflex." I forced a smile and gave her a strained grin. "Lele, what's up?" She leaned in with a gossipy expression. "Aren't you and Caleb Gu a couple? The campus belle is making such a big scene trying to be the other woman, and you're just handing Caleb Gu over to her. Aren't you afraid your boyfriend will be stolen?" I remembered the look of utter hatred on Caleb Gu's face right before I died in my previous life. He and Norabai must have already been involved in an improper relationship. I sneered coldly. "If he can be stolen, then he's not worth keeping anyway. I should actually thank Norabai for helping me steer clear of trash sooner rather than later." Gang Lele winked and gave me a thumbs up, as expected of me. "Violet. So brilliant." Suddenly, a figure walked in through the classroom door. The boy was tall and handsome, and if not for the trace of youthfulness on his face, he would have looked exactly like his future self. He walked straight to my desk and pulled out a box of Wangzai milk from his pocket. "Here, I bought what you wanted." My body stiffened, and for a moment, I couldn't speak. The familiar face in front of me repeatedly reminded me of the despair and pain from my previous life. Caleb Gu's large hand gently ruffled the top of my head. "What's wrong? Are you so hungry you've lost your mind?" I took a deep breath. "It's nothing. I'm just feeling a bit unwell." He approached me with a concerned look. "What's wrong? Come on. I'll take you to the campus clinic first." His closeness only made me feel disgusted. I immediately pushed him away. He frowned, looking somewhat confused. "Violet, I'm really fine. By the way, Norabai came looking for you earlier. You weren't here, so she asked me to give this to you." I handed the pink letter to Caleb Gu. What this kind of letter represents, no one could possibly be unaware. Caleb Gu's eyes flickered, and he cautiously glanced at my expression before hesitantly taking it. "Norabai just likes to joke around. I'll go return this to her. What did she say to you?" I smiled faintly. "She said she'll wait for you in the alley behind the school after evening self-study." Caleb Gu let out an then added with a pale explanation, "Violet, Norabai and we're just friends." I shrugged my shoulders. "I know, I believe you. I believe Caleb Gu has already been in contact with Norabai behind my back. What he doesn't know is that whenever he lies, he starts to stutter. Caleb Gu and I have been playing together since we were kids. Our two families are neighbors. My mom and Caleb Gu's mom have been best friends since their youth. And their relationship is so close that being best friends wasn't enough. They wanted to become in-laws in the future and arranged a childhood marriage for me and Caleb Gu. Fortunately, they eventually gave up on the idea. Before high school, Caleb Gu was still a short, chubby kid, unexpectedly. After entering high school, he shot up in height like a sprout, becoming more and more handsome, and was even crowned the school heartthrob by his classmates. Many girls developed feelings for him. And I was no exception. Taking advantage of my proximity, I was the first to confess my feelings to Caleb Gu. Caleb Gu said we were too familiar with each other and didn't agree, so I pursued Caleb Gu for 2 years, from the first year of high school to the 3rd year, and finally last month, he relented and agreed to my pursuit. And it was also last month that Norabai transferred to the class next door. She is beautiful, comes from a wealthy family, wears exquisite makeup every day, and dresses in lovely skirts, making her starkly different from someone like me, who is always disheveled and buried in books, studying hard. Thanks to her beauty, Norabai became the school belle. I never expected to be with Caleb Gu forever. But I didn't anticipate that he would start cheating after just 1 month. Everyone in the school knew that Caleb GU and I were a couple. While Caleb GU went to buy milk for me during the break, Nora Bai actually openly approached me, Caleb GU's official girlfriend, and asked me to deliver her love letter and pass on her message. It's hard to say she didn't do it on purpose, but it doesn't matter anyway. Nowadays, I no longer care about these things. Caleb GU is indeed overly concerned about Nora Bai. Ever since I told him that Nora Bai had asked to meet him in the evening, I could see him restless throughout the entire self-study session, frequently glancing at his watch from his diagonal seat when school was completely over. Caleb GU dashed out without even looking at me. These signs are clear enough. Caleb GU doesn't like me, but Nora Bai, Gang Lele looked at me with eyes full of sympathy. Violet, you were really cheated on by the campus belle. I didn't say a word, just walked out while making a phone call. After a while, I arrived at the intersection behind the school. The night has grown late. This is where the last streetlight on this road stands. Just one turn, and you can enter that alley. There are no lights in the alley, and very few people pass through. I leaned against the streetlight, holding up my phone, pretending to be on a call. Caleb GU and Nora Bai should already be inside. I idly counted the time. A few minutes later, 3 shifty-eyed men approached from a distance. When they saw me, their steps paused for a moment, as if sizing me up, their eyes scanning over me one by one. I gritted my teeth. My heart seemed to leap into my throat, and the blood in my entire body felt like it was about to freeze. Struggling to control my trembling, I yelled into the phone, "You little bastards, I've been waiting here for several minutes. How much longer until you get here? We're right behind the school, almost there." "Right, hurry up, all the guys are waiting." Seeing those people still staring at me, I rolled my eyes exaggeratedly and said in a rough voice, "What are you looking at, bitch? Never seen a woman before. Keep staring and I'll have my boys gouge your eyes out. Get the hell out of here." They exchanged a glance, ignoring my continued cursing, and headed into the dark alley. As soon as they were gone, I could barely stand, my legs so weak I had to lean against the street lamp. This was the best acting performance of my life. Before I could catch my breath, a faint scream suddenly came from the alley. "It's Nora Bai, come to think of it." How could Nora Bai, a beautiful girl who couldn't even harm a fly, and Caleb GU, who only played basketball after class, possibly stand a chance against such vicious criminals? In my previous life, the mountain of accusations that crushed me had also led me to mistakenly believe that all the tragedy was because of me. But now it has been proven that whether I tell Caleb GU or not won't change the facts. The ones at fault are these criminals, not me. As if freed from invisible shackles, I felt much lighter. Just then, a police car stopped in front of me, and the officers quickly got out of the car. "Hello classmate, are you the one who called the police?" I nodded firmly. "Yes, it's me. They're in this alley. There are 3 male suspects, possibly armed with weapons. Please be extremely careful." The police officers immediately rushed into the alley. After several gunshots, Caleb GU and Nora Bai were escorted out safely. Both of them looked somewhat disheveled. Nora Bai was draped in the police officer's coat, her face full of terror. I sneered inwardly, feeling even more disgusted by the two of them. The 3 men had only been in the alley for less than half a minute. They hadn't had time to do anything to Nora Bai, so their disheveled appearance clearly indicated they had been sneaking around doing something inappropriate inside. Before they noticed me, I turned around to slip away. "Hey, student," the police officer quickly called out to me. "Wait a moment. Come back with us to give a statement. We'll take you home later." I turned around awkwardly and indeed saw the complex expressions of surprise and shame on Caleb GU and Nora Bai's faces. Luckily, I had already prepared an excuse. I kept seeing those 3 men loitering around the alley recently. And then I heard Caleb GU and the other guy saying they were going to the alley late at night to have fun. I was worried something might happen, so I called the police. "You did the right thing, young student." The police officer nodded approvingly. "What's your name, and which class are you in?" I told him truthfully. "Let me take you home first, it's almost 11 o'clock already." The police did not mention the 3 men who had already died, let alone what had happened in the alley. But in fact, I had already known in my previous life. Those three were brothers from a village in a neighboring city. After a conflict with their neighbor, they killed the neighbor's entire family of 5 and fled here. They had no money and could only look for opportunities everywhere. When they saw the beautiful Nora Bai in the alley, they had malicious intentions, kidnapped her, and sold her for a high price. This was the information the police managed to get from them after spending 3 years to finally capture them. But as for who exactly they sold her to and where Nora Bai went, these individuals had no idea at all. They only said the buyer wore a black mask, and the transaction took place in the woods, leaving no clues whatsoever. Nora Bai was never found, even by the time I died. Fortunately, in this new life, I no longer have to bear the guilt of harming Nora Bai, and she won't be taken away by the bad guys. When I got home, I looked up and saw my parents sitting on the sofa watching a TV drama. In my memory, it had been a long time since they had been so relaxed. Although the police repeatedly stated that the incident had nothing to do with me, people always prefer to believe baseless yet dramatic rumors. Because of me, even the neighbors who had known me since childhood would point fingers at our family. During that time, my parents not only had to deal with these people but also had to constantly watch over my precarious mental state. By the time I finally made it through, they had rapidly aged by 10 or 20 years, with gray hair and a haggard appearance. Even now, I dare not imagine how heartbroken they must have been in my previous life upon hearing the news of my death. "Sweetie, you're back." My mom noticed me and waved me over. "Why are you so late today? Did you stay at school to finish your homework?" Looking at their faces, my heart ached with sorrow. Tears welled up in my eyes and I couldn't stop them. My parents immediately ran over, their expressions serious. "What's wrong, sweetie? Who hurt you?" I shook my head, crying. "I just miss you guys." My parents didn't believe me at all. "Sweetie, go to bed first. We'll go to school with you tomorrow. Don't be afraid, we're here for you." The couple immediately took out their phones and requested leave for the next day. No matter how much I explained, they insisted on going to the school to see for themselves. I sighed and thought helplessly, "Fine, let's just go then." The corners of my mouth kept curving up. The next day, my parents followed me to the classroom. They didn't find anyone bullying me, but instead ran right into the police officer who had come looking for me. "You've raised a fine daughter." The police officer personally came to present me with the commendation banner for my act of bravery. The incident involving the 3 brothers caused a major stir in the neighboring city, and the police there had been searching for them for several months. If it weren't for me, these criminals wouldn't have been apprehended so quickly, and Caleb Gu and Nora Bai would have met with misfortune. The authorities are taking this matter very seriously, and a television station even came to take photos. But after all, I am a senior in high school. To avoid affecting my studies, the reporter only asked a few simple questions, said a few words of encouragement for my college entrance exam, and then left. However, my parents were filled with fear after hearing what happened. Those 3 were murderers. How dare you confront them? If something had happened to you, how would your parents go on living? I hugged my mother without saying a word. They didn't know that from the moment Nora Bai approached me, I was already entangled in this matter. If I didn't take the initiative to report to the police after something happened to them, I would still go through the same experiences as in my previous life. Only by personally confirming that the criminals are brought to justice and ensuring Caleb Gu and Nora Bai escape safely can I truly feel at ease. I finally managed to persuade my parents to leave, and when I returned to my seat, the way the whole class looked at me had changed. Gang Lele tugged at the corner of my clothes. "Violet, you're just too amazing." The surrounding classmates also gathered around one after another. "Oh my God. You found the murderer that the neighboring city has been chasing for months. Sounds just like a superhero. I just heard from the police officer that you also saved 2 people in the alley. Who were they?" Gang Lele widened her eyes in surprise and glanced at the stiff figure diagonally across. "Violet, the people you saved couldn't be them, could you?" I smiled faintly and raised my index finger to my lips. Sure, I knew that Gang Lele had never been able to keep her mouth shut. By the end of the morning, everyone in the school knew that the people rescued in the alley were Caleb Gu and Nora Bai. To the average student, This alley didn't seem particularly special, just a very secluded spot. However, some students were well aware that this was a secret place where many young couples had their first taste of forbidden fruit. Isn't Caleb Gu dating Violet Song? Why would he go there with Nora Bai? The two of them were having an affair behind Violet Song's back and almost got killed by a murderer, only to be saved by Violet Song in the end. Even a TV drama couldn't come up with such a ridiculous plot. The mistress and the scumbag. I actually used to call them the school beauty and the school hunk. This time, the ones facing criticism from the entire school were Caleb Gu and Nora Bai. At noon after school, I was just about to go to the cafeteria for lunch when Caleb Gu walked over. "Violet," I turned around, my expression cold. "Is there something you need?" Classmate Caleb Gu, his eyes suddenly narrowed. "Violet, you've really misunderstood the relationship between me and Nora Bai." The classmates in the class all stopped in their tracks, craning their necks to eavesdrop on our conversation. Caleb Gu pursed his lips. "She and I are just friends. She was the one who asked me to go to the alley. I didn't think too much about it. I've only ever liked you." A mocking smile curled at the corner of my lips. Last night, when Caleb Gu was escorted out of the alley by the police, he didn't even have time to zip up his pants. Is this what he calls a misunderstanding and a friend? In my past life, he even abandoned me during my difficult childbirth for Nora Bai, watching me die. If he says he doesn't like Nora Bai, I don't believe it. Yet now, amid the rumors, he decisively abandoned Nora Bai and shifted all the blame onto her. "Violet, please forgive me. I promise I won't have anything to do with Nora Bai anymore. Didn't we agree to go to Tsinghua University together?" Caleb Gu looked at me with pleading eyes, his tone actually carrying a hint of begging. I couldn't quite understand why this was happening. Doesn't he love her? Why was Caleb Gu so eager to confirm our relationship to everyone? Just to prove his innocence and shift the blame onto Nora Bai. He is so eager to escape from this gossip, but I just don't want to let him have his way. Caleb Gu, I looked at him. Let's break up. In this lifetime, I have finally done nothing wrong. My story was featured on television, and I gained a bit of fame nationwide. The whole school praises me as a great hero and treats me exceptionally well. Neighbors nearby often bring fruits and snacks, encouraging their children to learn from a hero like me. It's completely different from my previous life. There is no verbal abuse or bullying from classmates. Everyone treats me with kindness. It's as beautiful as a dream. On the other hand, Nora Bai is now accused by her classmates every day of being a homewrecker, but they only point fingers at her behind her back and don't go so far as to bully her physically. After all, it's just a moral issue, which is much lighter compared to the crimes I was accused of in my previous life. I do not feel guilty about what happened to Nora Bai. She did indeed come between Caleb Gu and me. It could even be said that if she hadn't insisted on going into that alley, she wouldn't have been in danger at all. And I won't bear the blame for it. Yet she seemed to think everything was my fault. While I was still reviewing my lessons, Nora Bai suddenly rushed into the classroom looking for me. "Violet Song, was it you who went around telling everyone I'm the other woman?" Nora Bai was no longer her usual beautiful and refined self, shouting at me in a disheveled state. I put down the pen in my hand and calmly looked at her. "I'm not that bored." Her eyes were red, and she even held a trace of resentment toward me. "If it wasn't you, then who else could it be? Violet Song, you're just getting back at me for taking Caleb Gu away from you." I shook my head with a smile. "You forgot. When you first came to the classroom to find me, it was in front of so many people that you asked me to give Caleb Gu a love letter. It was also you yourself, right here in this place, shouting loudly for me to pass on the message and ask Caleb Gu to meet you in the alley." "What do you mean?" Nora Bai suddenly widened her eyes. "Are you saying I brought this upon myself? Isn't that so?" I looked at her with pity. "Nora Bai, you chose to be the other woman. You're the one who put yourself in this situation. You can't blame anyone else. The ones who should be condemned and blamed the most are those three inhumane murderers. The alley was where Nora Bai intended to go, but the ones who committed the evil deeds were those villains." However, in my previous life, it was actually me who faced more criticism. In reality and online, people exaggerated and even resorted to spreading rumors. portraying me as a villain in order to subject me to moral judgment. I live in such pain and humiliation that I can't even explain. It's because she came between my boyfriend and me that I stopped him from going to meet her. After all, Nora Bai is the victim, and she has already suffered enough. But today, I have rescued Nora Bai. She is no longer a victim. The reputation she now has as the other woman is entirely of her own making. Facing her, I finally have the confidence to say those words, "None of this is my fault. I didn't make her become the other woman." In my previous life, I didn't send her into that alley either. However, Nora Bai didn't think it was her problem at all. She only knew that she had been scolded, and she urgently needed an outlet for her emotions. I was the most suitable candidate. Her expression twisted as she walked towards me. A hand stopped her. Caleb Gu had somehow moved from his seat diagonally across to here without her noticing. His face was ashen, and his gaze toward Nora Bai was icy cold. "Enough, Caleb Gu." Nora Bai glared at him. "So even you are on her side, is that it?" Caleb Gu gritted his teeth and said, "Can you stop making a scene? Aren't you embarrassed enough already?" He pulled Nora Bai and walked out. After the midterm exams, Gang Lele told me that Caleb Gu and Nora Bai had completely fallen out. They were shouting insults at each other downstairs of the teaching building. Caleb Gu said Nora Bai is shameless, a homewrecker who seduced him. Nora Bai also called Caleb Gu a scumbag, saying he dares to do it but not admit it. When the exam results were handed out, the seat diagonally across from me was already empty. Caleb Gu and Nora Bai transferred schools and left. The boy I loved for over a decade left me earlier in this lifetime. Saying I'm not sad would be a lie, but what I feel more is actually relief. Before their family moved away, Caleb Gu's mother brought him to apologize to me. I stepped forward and gave his mother a hug. "Auntie, this matter has nothing to do with you. As for Caleb Gu, I will never forgive him." Caleb Gu had been hanging his head low, but upon hearing my words, he suddenly looked up. His eyes rimmed red. I smiled faintly. "Who are you putting on this affectionate act for, Caleb Gu? You were the one who agreed to my pursuit, but weren't you also the one who cheated?" Caleb Gu stared intently at me. "Violet, I'm sorry. I opened the door for him myself. Go quickly, and never see me again." In my previous life, wherever I went, rumors and gossip followed me. My parents are getting older, and I was afraid they would continue to be affected by me. So I moved out of the house during college and lived with Caleb Gu. After graduation, I completely lost the courage to step out of the house and could only stay at Caleb Gu's home every day. At that time, I couldn't live without Caleb Gu at all. However, I now realize that even without Caleb Gu, my life wouldn't change in the slightest. I truly cherish this peaceful life. In my previous life, my high school grades were excellent. If it weren't for that incident that severely affected my mental state, I would have had a great chance of getting into Tsinghua or Peking University. Unfortunately, in the end, I only barely managed to get into a public second-tier university. Now that I have another chance, I hope to fulfill the dream I couldn't achieve back then. I immerse myself in studying every day. After all, it's been a long time since high school, and it took me quite a bit of effort to pick up this knowledge again. My recent exam results haven't been ideal, but fortunately, I'm still quite clever, so I didn't learn too slowly. It wasn't until after the college entrance exams that I found out Caleb Gu and Nora Bai had transferred to the same high school and officially started dating. When she said this, Gang Lele carefully watched my expression, as if worried I might be upset. I just smiled indifferently. "They're a good match. Violet, aren't you angry at all? It was Nora Bai who interfered back then. Why do they get to be happily together now? I never knew Gang Lele could be so indignant. I just want to live my own life well. I don't want to know who they're with or what they're doing. From now on, my life is mine alone. As for the two people who carried the pain of my past life, I don't even want to hear their names." It was already 5 years later when I heard the name Caleb Gu again. I graduated from Tsinghua University and then studied abroad for 2 years. Shortly after returning to China, my friends booked a private room, saying they were throwing a welcome party for me. All of these people are friends I made during my university years, apart from the class monitor who got into Tsinghua University with me. I've almost lost contact with my high school classmates. Although I clearly understand the differences between the two lives, I cannot forgive the bullying and mistreatment I endured from my classmates in my previous life. I will not choose to seek revenge on them. But I also cannot pretend as if those things never happened. My high school classmates have invited me to reunions several times, and each time I have avoided them using business as an excuse. Gradually, they stopped calling me. The class monitor was also among those at this welcome party. However, he sat at the very edge, isolated from the crowd. In fact, social circles in university are the most clearly stratified. If you have the skills, ability, and status, then you can be at the very center of the circle. The class monitor wanted to move to the center of the crowd. If he couldn't do it on his own, he had to find a way to rely on others. After chatting with me for a while, my friends dispersed a bit. At that moment, the class monitor squeezed in, looking ingratiating. "Violet Song, I never expected that after not seeing you for a few years, you've become so impressive." Before I could speak, he continued on his own. "Violet, do you still remember Caleb Gu and Nora Bai? That scumbag ex-boyfriend of yours and the other woman? They're having a really tough time now." I interrupted him. "I don't want to hear about that. But my friends are clearly the type who love to stir up trouble." As soon as they heard it was about my ex-boyfriend, they immediately seized the opportunity and urged the class monitor to continue. I also had to learn about Caleb Gu and their current situation. It turns out that in this life, after college, Nora Bai's family went bankrupt. Caleb Gu and Nora Bai, just like me in the previous life, only attended an ordinary second-tier university. Hearing this, I found it simply unbelievable. Caleb Gu's grades have always been at the top of the class. He always ranks first in the entire school, and no matter how hard I try as the second-place student, I can never surpass him. A few years ago, when he was about to transfer schools, the homeroom teacher and the grade director tried to persuade him several times, not wanting to let go of someone who was highly likely to become the city's top scorer. When I saw that the top scorer in the city's college entrance exam wasn't him, I thought he must have been somewhat affected. But I never expected it would lead to him only being able to attend an ordinary second-tier university. After all, he is Caleb Gu. In his previous life, he scored 710 points and became the top student in the province. With prestigious universities competing to invite him for admission, he went to the finance department at Tsinghua University, where he was so outstanding that he became a prominent figure even at such a prestigious institution. In his junior year, due to his exceptional performance, he gained the appreciation of a prominent figure. The prominent figure provided him with funding, and Caleb Gu, along with like-minded partners, started a business, earning millions in the second year. Even when I was at a different school, I often heard classmates expressing admiration for Caleb Gu. I looked up to him for my entire life. Even if I had a chance to start over, though I didn't see him at Tsinghua or Peking University, I still believed he was creating his own legend. However, the class monitor told me that Caleb Gu went to a second-tier university, and after graduation, he worked as a low-level employee at a small company, drifting aimlessly for years without any achievements. It's like someone saying that Jack Ma never started a company but worked as a teacher his entire life. That sense of disillusionment and shock left me standing there in a daze, unable to react for a long time. The class monitor continued speaking eloquently. Caleb Gu and Nora Bai have been on and off over the past few years. Nora Bai has been completely dependent on Caleb Gu for support. Her family went bankrupt and doesn't take care of her or give her any money, as a wealthy young lady accustomed to lavish spending. Nora Bai reportedly often argues with Caleb Gu. What happened next? Later on, I heard from my high school classmate Gang Lele that Nora Bai took Caleb Gu's savings to get cosmetic surgery. After Caleb Gu found out, he dumped her. Upon hearing this, their friends couldn't help but applaud. Serves her right. Fortunately, our Violet broke up with that scumbag. Just a few steps out of the private room, I bumped into someone head-on. Sorry. The deep voice from the other side sounded very familiar. I looked up and sure enough, it was him. Caleb Gu. He was wearing a waiter's uniform, but it did nothing to diminish his handsome and refined appearance. 5 years had passed, and aside from appearing more mature, he didn't seem to have changed much. Seeing me, he was clearly taken aback as well. Violet, my friends, noticing I had stopped, quickly urged me on. What's wrong, Violet? Weren't we going for a drink? The class monitor quickly stopped everyone. It's fine, Violet, you guys chat. We'll go ahead and wait for you at the venue. Take your time, no rush. I sighed and turned to leave. Caleb Gu grabbed my wrist. Violet, can we talk? He looked at me with pleading eyes. Just a few minutes. I won't take too much of your time, I agreed and followed him to the corner. What do you want to talk about? Caleb Gu lowered his head, looking at me deeply. I work part-time at this shop. And you, all these years, have you been doing well? I'm doing fine. Yes, it's good that you're doing well, that's good. Is there anything else? If not, I'll be going now. Violet, he suddenly stepped forward and embraced me. I've always loved you. Are you still willing to accept me? I broke free from his embrace and immediately slapped him across the face, sexually harassing a guest. Caleb Gu, I will report you to your boss. I turned and walked away, never stopping my steps. I always thought Caleb Gu liked Nora Bai. I fell in love with him in my senior year of high school, married him after graduating from college, and we were together for a full 7 years until I became pregnant. If he wasn't madly in love with Nora Bai, I can't understand why he would stand by and do nothing while I was in difficult labor. Yet in this lifetime, after I broke up with Caleb Gu, he didn't seem to love Nora Bai that much. This used to puzzle me greatly, but now I understand, from beginning to end. What he loved was not me or Nora Bai, but the obsession of unattainable desire, a false illusion. That's why in our previous life, he couldn't see me by his side, deeply loving the missing Nora Bai, loving her so much he wished for my death. In this life, however, because he broke up with me, he has become unable to forget me. Understanding this, I only feel disgusted, but Caleb Gu clearly wasn't willing to give up on me. Somehow, he managed to get my newly changed WeChat ID and sent me a friend request. His first message was, "Long time no see. I will prove to you that I truly love you." I immediately blocked and deleted him. A few days later, my mentor recommended me to a company in City B for a manager position. On my first day at work, while waiting for the elevator downstairs, I suddenly heard someone calling my name from behind. Violet, you actually work here too. I frowned deeply and turned around to see Caleb Gu standing behind me, looking at me with a surprised expression. You came here because I didn't hold back and poured cold water on his excitement. Don't be so full of yourself. If I had known you were here, I wouldn't have come. This company is one of the top-tier companies in City B. My mentor recommended me because he highly values my abilities. I cannot betray my mentor's trust over someone like Caleb Gu, so I cannot resign. But Caleb Gu is becoming increasingly bold in pursuing me. Even after being warned by the leadership, he persists relentlessly, even buying roses and sending them to my office every day. I was so annoyed that I directly re-added him on WeChat. Caleb Gu, Violet. You're finally willing to talk to me. Me, Caleb Gu, I already have a boyfriend. Caleb Gu doesn't believe I have a boyfriend, because in my social circle, I've never mentioned my boyfriend's existence to anyone. He thought this was my excuse for rejecting him, so he became even more persistent in trying to win me over with his determination. The more I refused, the more obsessed he became. I could sense that he wasn't pursuing a person with independent thoughts and emotions, but rather chasing his past unfulfilled desires, pursuing what he couldn't obtain. He was challenging, taking risks, as if it were a game to conquer, and I was the final boss. During this period, I rush off work every day, afraid that if I'm slow, I might run into Caleb Gu. His so-called pursuit has left me exhausted. As I stepped out of the company gate, a tall figure caught my eye. It was already autumn, and the person was wearing a trench coat, with a slender yet upright figure that stood out in the crowd. My eyes lit up, and I threw myself into his arms. Pei-yang, what are you doing here? Pei-yang smiled gently and held me in his arms. Auntie told me that your first love is trying to steal you away from me. So I had to rush back to assert my claim. My mom, I frowned. Caleb Gu actually went to my mom to pursue me. Pei-yang noticed my mood and patted my head. Alright, let's not think about those irrelevant people anymore. Let's go home. Uncle and Aunt are already waiting for us at home. He took my hand and started walking towards the parking lot. Violet, Caleb Gu stood behind us, holding a large bouquet of roses. His expression wounded. He questioned me loudly. Who is he? I showed him our clasped hands, mine and Pei Yang's. Let me formally introduce you. This is my boyfriend, Pei Yang. Caleb Gu gritted his teeth and shook his head in self-deception. I don't believe it. He's just an actor you hired to fool me. Right, I wanted to say something more. But Pei Yang suddenly wrapped his arm around my waist, lowered his head, and kissed me on the lips. Stay away from my girlfriend. Pei Yang took me back home. My parents had already prepared the meal and were waiting for us. Seeing Pei Yang, the two of them smiled so widely their eyes almost turned into slits. Pei Yang, sit down quickly. We really appreciate you taking care of Violet while she was abroad. When are you two planning to get married? Have you thought of a date? Pei Yang turned to look at me helplessly, and I chuckled, shrugging my shoulders in resignation. My parents are very satisfied with Pei Yang. 2 years ago, I chose to study abroad alone, and my family did not support me. I was determined to have my own way, and as soon as I arrived abroad, I got lost. The navigation systems abroad were not very useful, so I had to rely on maps, but my sense of direction is extremely poor, and following the map only made me go further and further away. Pei Yang appeared at this very moment. It can be said that if it weren't for him, my journey to study abroad might not have been so smooth. Soon, Pei Yang and I developed into a couple. In a foreign land, we supported each other through 2 years. I only told my parents about Pei Yang's existence and hadn't had the chance to formally introduce him to my friends yet. In the 2nd year, when Pei Yang and I were choosing wedding dresses before our marriage, I met Caleb Gu at the entrance. By then, he had already resigned from that large company and appeared even more down and out. He chased after me and asked, "Are you getting married?" I showed him the ring on my finger. "Yes, I won't be sending you an invitation." His eyes turned gloomy. "Violet, just call me by my name." I looked at Caleb Gu. Our relationship isn't that close. He gave a self-deprecating smile. "Violet, Violet's song. I wish you a happy marriage. Thank you." I finished speaking perfunctorily and turned to leave. He suddenly said, "I had a dream a while ago. In the dream, you and I got married." I paused in my steps and looked at him coldly. "What do you want to say?" Caleb Gu turned his face away. "I want to say, the me in the dream actually loved you very much. It was just a dream." I kept a straight face, ignoring Caleb Gu behind me, and pushed open the door of the bridal shop directly. Inside the door, Pei Yang opened his arms to me.